I can't help but really like the adorable little fox-like cub that you control in Fe, which also happens to be the name of this little creature. Waking up all on its own in the middle of this huge and dark forest, it's a scary environment for a young animal to find itself in. However, Zoink's adventure is one of exploration and discovery within this environment, while also taking it upon yourself to stop the silent ones that are attacking and, well, silencing the forest. Fe's distinctive art style is absolutely one of the main draws that I find into this world. As colourful as each screenshot and viewpoint that you find is, it's colour that's actually lent to the world by the heavily blooming light that bathes it. Scenes can be flooded by deep oranges, greens, blues, purples, but the actual forest and the creatures that live within it are an almost obsidian black. The creature designs themselves are just as weird and wonderful. The first deer that you encounter, as creative director Hugo Biller called it, is rather unlike any deer that you will have seen in the real world. It might have a similar silhouette, but its mouth is on its forehead, it lacks antlers, and there's numerous other differences that you'll find. It feels like Zoink are trying to evoke a particular feeling with these creatures as opposed to mimicking reality, and there's an almost allegoric feel to the silent ones and their sinewy bipedal forms when they're upright, compared to mankind's influence on nature. Of course, then they skitter around on all fours as their preferred method for getting around the world, so they're still fairly alien. All of the creatures have their own peculiar languages and sounds that add to their design, and these have been created quite marvellously by a handful of voice actors, making animal-like sounds that have then been translated into the game. It's an interesting point as it adds further to the somewhat alien designs, to the unfamiliar surroundings and the sense of wonder and discovery within the world. These languages play into how you actually get around this forest. The cub's native tongue can interact with certain plant life and get it to open up into bouncy platforms, for example, but the deer can interact with other plants, birds can extract seeds that can be used to destroy the barriers that the silent ones put up, and so on. While you are eventually able to learn and imitate these sounds, opening up certain parts of the world to you in a light Metroidvania fashion, you will initially need to befriend these creatures to get them to help you. This is done by singing to them, and that is controlled by the analog right trigger on the controller, which determines the pitch and volume at which you sing. On the Switch, where you don't have an analog trigger, this is handled by tilting the controller or the console itself as you hold the button. Much like if you're trying to get too close to a cat that doesn't want your attentions, animals will generally be quite skittish and afraid of you if you simply run towards them. But if you chitter away quietly in Fe's little garbled language, you can draw them towards you, and this then lets you enter a little analog minigame to find the right degree and volume to depress the trigger. After that, you might as well be best friends. A deer will bound after you, birds will flutter ahead and leave a trail behind them, and you can gather a little band of lizards to chase around behind you. Better yet, you can hop onto the deer's back and ride it around, and adorably pick up and carry the lizards around with you, or even throw them at things, with a rather amusing little audio cue that goes with this. Even without the threat of the silent ones, this dark forest is full of dangers for a tiny little cub such as Fe. For one thing, various larger animals will simply ignore you, or you have to learn their language before they'll even consider acknowledging you. But then there are those that see you as a tasty snack or an annoyance that they'd rather chase around and try and squish. Fairly early on, I had to try and help a large bird-like creature to reclaim things that I think are its eggs that it was looking after in a rather unusual-looking nest. The silent ones had managed to steal its eggs and run away to different corners of the area, and as I followed one, I managed to track it to a cave, whereupon I saw this big beast come out of nowhere and simply crush it and take the egg for itself. It was only by distracting this creature with other foods that I could sneakily steal the egg back and make a clean escape. However, Hugo told me that if I had taken a little bit longer, I could have let it chase me further and then lure it towards other silent ones to turn its nature against them. Much of the game revolves around building these little links with the world around Fe, whether friendly or hostile, but as a young cub, there's plenty of growing up for Fe to do itself. Finding pink crystals within the world, these can be exchanged at a giant mystical tree to lend Fe the ability to clamber up trees and get to new locations, leap and glide like a flying squirrel, and more. It's also through these that new areas might open up to you, while some of the grandest moments come to rely on some of these core abilities. That said, Hugo did reveal that you don't necessarily need to have every single ability in order to finish the game. Finding your way in this world is done in a rather hands-off fashion, with only the most minimal of indicators at a few key points to inform you of the trigger to sing or the ability to climb up a tree for the first time. While Zoink prefer this hands-off approach in general, there are a few concessions that they've made for those that might need or want a little bit more guidance. So you have a world map for one thing, but there's also the ability to sing as loud as you possibly can for a few moments and bring a bird straight to you. That bird will then lead you to the next place that you need to go, fluttering off into the distance and leaving a trail behind it. However, with the emphasis on exploration, they've kept all of these hints and pointers to a minimum, and I think that is to the game's credit. Ever since its unveiling at E3 in 2016 as the first game under the EA Originals brand, I've wanted to see more of Fe. It's no doubt with good reason that Zoink have generally kept it under wraps, giving themselves the time and breathing space to develop it in. I came away from an hour of playing Fe delighted with the charming adventure that Zoink have managed to create. The game is actually out very soon on the 16th of February, so almost as soon as this preview goes out, we will be delving in and reviewing the game. If you want to see our thoughts and how the full game has shaped up, be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and also come visit us over on thesixthaxis.com. Hopefully we will see you again soon. Goodbye!